Welcome to Legend Makers, the podcast where education's true heroes take center stage.
Shine like a ray from the sun, that something people look for but never can find.
We're back. I've got Kendra Rosner here on the Legend Makers podcast. Kendra's from Lorewood Grove Elementary School in Delaware. Full transparency, Kendra is running our Drone Legends program. I don't normally have a lot of Drone Legends people on here, kind of by design. I don't want it to ever seem overly promotional, but you and I have had a great relationship over the last couple of years. We just presented at FETC, had a blast with you there. And I've watched you, I've been in your classroom. So I've been in your after school settings. And so, you know, when I thought about like, who could we have on the pod that is just full of energy and optimism and does some great things with students, I thought, who better than Kendra? And just coming out of FETC, it was a no-brainer. So I know you very, very well, but for those that don't, could you please introduce yourself? And it's really good to see you, by the way.
It's good to see you. Yeah, my name is Kendra Rosner. And everybody pronounces my name wrong. I actually, my maiden name is Moritz, Moritz, and nobody in my entire life ever pronounced that correctly. So now that I'm Rosner, it's like, I still don't get people saying my name right. So it's okay.
How did they mispronounce Moritz?
They would say Mortiz or Moris, like Morris. I had never got the Z, but it's okay. It's fine. I've accepted it. But I'm currently the STEAM coordinator for Lorewood Grove Elementary. It's for the Appoquinimink School District in Delaware. And I get the fun job of just bringing learning to life. It's my 19th year teaching. I've been in this role. This is my third year. And I actually function out of the library. We have something called an innovation center. So I have a library, then I have a STEM lab, and then I have a Lego room. So I'm very, very fortunate with space. And I see grades first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and I also see our RISE population, who are our students living with autism. There's I wear many hats, and luckily for me, I learned about Drone Legends and was able to incorporate that and convince my administration to buy in with it, and it's been a success ever since.
Yeah, I've been to your facilities, and it's amazing. You've got one of those areas that I'm just like, oh, this looks great, like jealous. Like, I didn't have this growing up. This looks fun. You've got all the great stuff. So we do a few things here. You know, you and I were talking just before we got on, and lots of people that listen to this podcast or have listened to me talk in the past know that I have kind of a storied history, that I was a notoriously horrible student. I wasn't just checked out. I was that little disruptive kid that was just trying to muck up the works and made a big fucking. So as I've come into this profession, where I'm now into 5 years here, I've had the privilege of meeting hundreds and hundreds of teachers and spending quality time with you guys. And my hat is off to you. The job that you do, I'm impressed. I'm in awe. I honestly sit back and go, I don't know how anybody can do that day in, day out. It's a hard job. I tried it. When I first started off Drone Legends, I used to run my own programs. And so I know, I've been there, and it's hard, but it's also extremely rewarding. So I understand kind of why you do it. But, and that leads me into my first question is, so why? How did you start? Why did you start teaching?
Oh gosh, my mom was an educator. She actually was an educator, then they had me. And so she kind of wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but she kind of taught me the love of learning. And at age 6, I had on my front porch a whole school set up, and kids in the neighborhood would come and I would teach them. And it's kind of been in my blood ever since I found the love of learning and love of books through her. Interesting fact about me, I'm dyslexic and dysgraphic, so I read and write backwards. It's very, very hard for me. So I had to really first understand what that was, because I didn't understand why I was learning differently than my peers. So in school life, it was very hard for me to be a learner. But I had a mom and dad that never gave up on me. And I have really, really great teachers. My favorite teacher in the whole wide world, besides my high school teacher, he was my AP history, was Mrs. Humberger. Yes, hamburger. She was my fourth
Hamburger.
grade. Yeah, like you. There's that Pink Panther by with Steve Martin. Hamburger, like kind of
Hamburger.
like that.
Did Miss Hamburger get a lot of hamburger jokes all the time? I'm sure
She did.
especially was it mostly the boys doing it, or was it everyone?
It was mostly me doing it, actually.
Really? And
I was
you were the good student?
no.
Oh,
I was I know
ah.
I have a disability, so I'm going to make fun of everybody around me to make myself feel better, kind of a thing, and that included my teacher.
Oh, all right. Okay. So Miss
Yeah,
Hamburger got the wrath from you,
I'm
huh?
so sorry if you're watching Mrs. Hamburger. But no, she was my
I love
inspiration.
it. I love it.
She was like the teacher that never gave up on me, and she would the so
Yeah.
I from then on out had really great teachers, and so it just kind of solidified my want to help kids that especially learn differently, like how I
Yep.
did. So
Hmm.
I actually went to the special ed world first. I did like severe disabilities, like emotional disturbance, and that was my first tap in. And then I kind of got tired, and I then transitioned to what we call the gen ed world, and I did more
Mm.
elementary teaching. And so
So
that's
Gen Ed, tell me what Gen Ed world is. So you
yeah,
said we call
yeah,
it Gen Ed.
general education.
General
So
Ed.
like there's
General Ed. Yeah.
special
Got it.
education, there's general
Yep.
education. Gen ed is mainly, I hate to say the word typical because I know that's a word that's not really loved by a lot of people, but the
Yeah.
typical, what
That's
you think of a typical setting.
a typical setting. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And so that's why. So it's in your blood, and you had
Yep.
some great teachers that instilled that in you, and you wanted to do it. So you've been at this 19 years now.
19 years,
So basically your whole life.
pretty much. Half, at least half of it.
That's great. How are you feeling right now? I mean, it's really interesting. So here we are. It's February 18th,
Yep.
start to 2025, which is mind blowing in and of itself. Makes me feel old. I'm getting up there. And, it's an interesting climate. I just got back. So you and I were at FETC,
Oh yeah.
in January, right?
Yeah.
Middle of January. And then I went from there to the Beyond School Hours, which is an after school conference. And it's usually an awesome and it is an awesome conference, but it felt a little light this year over previous years. Like the attendance didn't seem like where I remember it. In fact, when I looked out over, they have a ridiculously great reception. I mean, they do such a good job, this
Hmm.
foundations group. And they're right over here in Mount Laurel. They're based near me,
Oh yeah, I know
near
the area.
Marlton.
Yeah.
And it just seemed light. And everybody was kind of looking around like, why is it so light? And that was attendance as well as exhibitors. And
Mm.
I didn't necessarily feel that at FETC.
Hmm.
And I'm about to go to the National After School Association conference in Tennessee, in Nashville. I'm doing that on March. So I'll get a sense of, but how are you feeling right now? What's the vibe in education today?
Education is it's a hamster wheel. It is. I feel like we're the hamster and the wheel will never stop turning. Like it's just going to keep on going and you just have to try to keep up with it. You know how sometimes you see the hamster like flip over with the wheel?
Yeah.
That's where I feel like some people are right now. They're just trying to get back on their feet. I'm like, I don't know what it is. There's something about this year that is just different. It's different for
Hmm.
different reasons to different people. I think that there's a lot going on in the political world.
Yeah, for sure.
That could be why some people feel extra heavy. But I also know that mental health right now is something that is taking a back seat to a lot of people. I think COVID, like we kind of talked prior to like getting on here, COVID kind of forced us to find help and seek ourselves and figure out what we need. And then we did that. And then I think we're starting to forget that again. Um,
Hmm.
Even though I had a day off yesterday, I don't give myself a day off because in my perception of myself as a teacher is there's always something to be doing and to be doing better at, and I don't rest until I feel like it's perfect. And because nothing is ever perfect, I never rest. So I have to
Hmm.
learn how to take care of myself.
Yeah.
And this past, just because yesterday was President's Day, that doesn't mean that I got a day off. What do you think I was doing? I was working the entire day, and now I'm coming in tired. But I think people just need that friendly reminder to slow down. And it's not
Hmm.
going to come from an administrator necessarily. We have to do that work ourselves.
I love it. You have to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you can
Yep.
help anybody else. And that's true. So
Right.
how quickly we forget, right? I mean, isn't it funny? Like I was just saying this last night, like COVID's 5 years ago. Like this time 5 years ago, we were all looking at each other like, what is going on? There was like, it was just about to happen, right? Like
Yeah.
in March 13th, I think it was, is when they announced school closures for 2 weeks here
Yeah.
in like the Cherry Hill, New Jersey area, Eastern
Right.
Township. And I remember being like, oh, I had just started Drone Legends. I was like just out there, hoofing it with my drones and trying to set up after school. And all of a sudden this whole thing starts happening. But that's 5 years ago. And to your point, a lot of people learned a lot, but all of a sudden it's in the rearview mirror and here we go back to the grind, right? And
Yeah.
so I think a lot of those lessons learned or some of those habits formed in COVID
Yeah.
era time are slipping away quickly. And so it's a good reminder to,
And something that I didn't go to this one at FETC, my colleague Jess did. You met her.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
There was this workshop that she attended, and it was about how the kids that are kindergarten, first, second, third, and even like the going into middle school, the older age, there's a brain development study going on right now about kids that are in COVID and then the ones that kind of came after. And very long story short, they're finding that the front of the brain is actually smoothing out. And the reason for that is because I'm sure a lot of teachers feel this right now. We feel like we constantly have to keep them busy, like on an iPad or doing this or doing busy work. Like it's almost like they just can't sit. Like I see all the kids in my school, and when I tell them, all right, guys, we just need to be quiet and sit, they don't know how to do that because
Hmm.
their brains are so used to being so stimulated all the time that they actually don't know how to just relax.
Relax.
And so what we're finding as teachers, or what I'm finding as a teacher, is I'm not teaching reading, writing, arithmetic, all those. I have to teach you how to just take a minute, breathe, calm down. Like it's coping skills 101.
Yeah.
And it's
What do
like
you think?
going,
How did COVID contribute to that? Are you saying the kids that were in that kind of came through the COVID era have that? You talk about the
yeah,
smoothing out of the front. They have a
yeah,
hard time. So my take is that they spent a lot of time on screens, right? That they were
yes.
just screen constantly. Maybe. Well, so what's your take on that? Like, why? Why is that the result?
So
Do you have any
let's go back
ideas?
to schooling, right? So when
Hmm.
COVID hit, everybody went on to Zoom, whether it be
Yeah.
as a parent, you were now working from home, or if you were a child, even if in high school, you were learning off of a screen.
Hmm.
Right? So then what happens next? So as a teacher, you're like, okay, friends, we're going to do this today. And then when we're done and we get off here, you're going to go on to an application and you're
Hmm.
going to spend 30 minutes in front of this application on a screen and do your math work. And then for the next half an hour, you're going to go into the ELA or the reading website that I've attached here for you to do. And then, by the way, you're going to go into Schoology or Seesaw, and then you're going to type up what you learned. So their learning was constantly on screen. So then
Hmm.
shift into 2021, 2022, when we got back into the school, and there was this huge push on technology. You have to put them in front of a screen because this is how they learned. But then when
Mm.
22, 23 hit, and then 23 into 24, there was like this, wait, they don't know how to write their name.
Uh-huh.
So now we have to like the pendulum swinging again. Okay, all right, let's take them off of screens as much and now move to paper and pencil because we're forgetting about the basics. And now in this world that we live in, it's almost like there needs to be some technology and there needs to
Hmm.
be some of the basics like the handwriting piece and reading off of a book and not from a screen
Yeah.
because they just I love technology. I think it's always going to be something that pushes
Hmm.
us forward. But if you don't know how to do something simple as write your name, then that's a problem that we need to address now. And that sounds silly maybe to some people, but I come
Hmm.
into my first grade class and a lot of them don't even know what what's your last name, friend? I don't know. What do you mean you don't
Really?
know your last name? Yeah,
Really?
we have to go back to basics.
So back to basics. So how are you applying that? Because I know you, and I'm just saying this because I know you kind of blend that very well. So describe how you're dealing with that.
So in my classrooms, the older grades are working on portfolios and they're learning things such as not only how to write your name, but they're also learning money skills. They're making portfolios. They're learning their name. They're not only their name, they know their name by 5th grade, but their address and their personal information that maybe they need to relay in like an emergency situation. We actually have the you were here on STEAM Day last year, and the fire department prior to that came in and taught kids, all right, friends, when you're making this emergency phone call, you need to know your name, your address, the color of your house, your phone number, your parents' names. And they were kind of like, what? So going back to basics, when you're teaching here, whenever I'm making the kids' portfolios, they're working on that. The very first thing that I do with all of the grades here, because I am in the STEAM world and I deal with technology, is we go through digital citizenship and internet safety. And that's a lesson that right from the get, they have to understand what is your personal information. Oh, let's learn your address and your name, but then also don't share that in the internet world.
And that's the digital citizenship. Tell me about digital citizenship. That's what that is. Just understanding your place in the digital world. And okay, cool. Yeah, you do.
That's
I
all
know
standards.
you integrate.
Yeah,
it's all standards. Yeah,
it's all standard based.
So, like, there is, I read that teacher shortages also a big deal, right? I think teaching. What's the most challenging thing you've seen? Like, you're good. You've been at this a long time, so you're seasoned. I mean, that's what we want to hear from people like yourself, because you've been through a lot of it, right? You've seen kind of the old model, you've seen the new model, and you see this emerging model. Like, what's happening right now that you think is either challenging or optimistic, or you like think this is really cool and I think this is the way the things are going?
I'm going to blame my generation because this is going to sound maybe not as positive, but I'm just going to call it the way that I see it. It is, if I ever came home from school and my father or my mother got a phone call from the school and said, hey, Kendra talked back to her teacher today and said no, I didn't want to come home. Like there was this culture at home where the teacher was right. Maybe they embellished the story a little bit and it wasn't, but like it didn't my version did not matter. Now it's almost like a child got in trouble. Wait, what did you do wrong?
Right.
What did the teacher do? The teacher, I have to if I do a write-up or if I do a referral, I then have this anxiety about, because of just previous experiences, when I go and talk to this child's parent or their family, I better be ready to answer the list full of questions that are going to come with this conversation. And those lists of questions are not going to be, wait, tell me what they did again. When did this happen? Okay, so how did you address it? It's going to be, well, why didn't you do this? And why didn't you move them? And why are you breathing air? Like the most ridiculous questions. And all I'm trying to do is tell you that your child was being disrespectful. And then there's no accountability at home. Perfect example. I met with a family this in the beginning of the year. I wrote their child up, and it was because they said to me, they did not need to listen to me and what I had to say. When I met with the parents face to face and I told them, they said, how is he disrespectful? Because the way that I wrote it up was he was being disrespectful. I gave them that. And their exact words to me were, well, that's not how we teach what disrespect is in our house. Okay. And at that point, I just had to say, I think we just need to agree to disagree, because I am a parent and that is what I teach. One example of disrespect.
Yes.
So there is this almost entitlement, unfortunately, that comes with the kids, that at least the population that I see. And it's very hard, probably from an administrative level, and it's very hard from at least a teacher level of addressing things when this wasn't maybe an issue when I was in school, because it was handled at home.
Correct. And I'm a Gen Xer, so you can just imagine, right?
Oh,
You know, we didn't go home.
Right. You ran away.
There was a belt waiting for you. If you, and I'm not suggesting we need to go to belts, but there was a certain kind of understanding that adults and authority figures meant something. And I get it. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, it's not just the students, it's everything. And I argue that it does start at home. I think everything starts at home. And some kids, unfortunately, don't have great home environments. And so that's where You know, and I'm sure you've seen that too. I'm sure you've seen students and worked with students that have a troublesome home environment, and maybe you are the one. Have you ever had it? Let's flip it. Do you ever have it where you've gained the trust and the respect and the of a student that maybe in the beginning felt some students want it, right? Some students are actually crying out for it. I can tell you right
Yeah.
now, half of my problems were crying out for attention because
Yeah.
divorced home, right? Mom worked all the time. I was left alone. I was 70s latchkey kid. I had a key. Boy, if you could jump back in time and watch what my brother and I did. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember summers. My brother and I were 10, 9, and we'd wake up to nobody. And there'd be like dry cereal on the counter with milks in the fridge and a little note saying, "See you tonight." And we were to check in with somebody down this, but my mom didn't have money for care. She was a single working mom in the 70s. Go figure, early 70s, 73, right? And
Yeah.
so my brother and I and all of our other divorcee children, friends ran around the woods like the Lord of the Flies. And we got so much trouble. So much. We had nobody watching us. So it's so different, right? And I think some of these kids that come from that kind of environment today are crying out for somebody to put some
Yeah.
structure and discipline around them. I think, do you ever feel that? Do you ever see that with
Oh
any of your
yeah.
students?
I mean, whenever I was teaching COVID, I was done, the kids were done with school. I wasn't. And
Mhm.
because I had to sit back and grade papers, and what did I do? I put them on an iPad because
Yeah.
I wasn't going to send them out into the world to go play in the woods because I'm sorry, that's not that the 70s was safe. You guys had some
No.
great serial killers in your era.
Yeah. We had some good,
You had some good ones. Like, I'm all about those documentaries, but
what was the guy's name? Oh, forget it. We
oh
don't even
gosh,
go
there's
down
so
that
many.
path.
John Wayne Gacy. There's
There
some,
was some
but
Zodiac guy, the
the
Zodiac
Zodiac.
killer.
God, there's so many. But I just couldn't send them out because it was COVID, and you don't send your kids out to play with other kids because you don't know if they have COVID. So what did they do? They went,
Right. They went and sat on iPads. So, all right. So we've covered off on all that. So what about people entering the profession? So now you've talked about some of the challenges. What about some of the rewards of why would you enter? I mean, so, you know, I'm sure there's people out there that are considering it. I hear again, teacher shortage. We need more teachers. And I don't think
Yeah.
that's ever going to be disputed that we need more great teachers like yourself.
Mhm.
What do you say to people that are considering it or entering it? What advice do you have for them?
People always say that teachers don't get paid enough. And
Mhm.
I can agree with that, but if you were to tell me or ask me, what is your value as a teacher? I don't know that I can answer that because if you were to put a dollar sign on what like if you broke down my salary, it would be like an hour would equate to $1.25. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
that. I do think the money is good. Like, now that I'm 19 years in, I'm in a really good spot with the state. Like, I do think the
Mhm.
buildup is really, really good. So I would argue that I think because we're off during the summertime and people don't understand that, like, our pay should really be 10, but they spread it out to 12. So
Mhm.
we are not we are getting paid for the work that we did during the year, but we also have the option to have summers off. And that's really, it's not
Mm.
why I got into teaching, but as a mom now, I
Yeah.
value that time more. So that's a
Mm.
really good way to look at, you're putting all this hard work in for 10 months, and then you do get 2 months if you want to
Kind of
just take
off.
care of yourself, to turn it off. And then I really do feel that recharge when we come back in September or late August. So I do value that. And we also get a lot of breaks. We get like a week off for, the winter break and for fall break and for spring break. So, like, there are breaks built in. So I feel like in my world, there are those chances to just take that deep breath.
Mhm.
But working with kids and seeing what we all know is the light bulb moments, those I don't know how to describe it, but when you have kids, now that I'm 19 years in, that come back to you that say, you know what
Yeah.
you did for me? Like, you were the only one that believed in me. You made me feel loved. I mean, how could you ever, besides having your own children say that to you, how could you ever, like, have that? You impacted somebody else's life in a positive way. And maybe, you never know, there's probably more out there that I may not ever see again just because.
Right.
but I probably made more of an impact because of how I treated them. And so I think that is something that is just, you can't put a dollar sign on it. And also, I
Agreed.
also think it's pretty cool that teachers are the profession that make other professions possible. So if it wasn't for us,
You're not the first person to say that here. It's
yes,
awesome. I love that line. You're right. We are the profession that makes all other professions.
yep,
You are. That's the teacher. So
Yeah.
you're two reasons. There's two reasons, and amongst many of I'm with you. I have over the last 5 years witnessed light bulb moments, right?
Mhm.
I there's nothing like that. There is absolutely nothing like watching the light bulb, knowing that you made a difference. I mean, I think it was, I don't remember who it was. One of the people we had on here said, look, we go back to the home life of some of these kids. And
Yeah.
some districts are rougher than others, and some students come from more privileged family backgrounds than others. But, in some places, you may be the light in that kid's day, right? They have to go home to a horrifying situation. I mean, that's what COVID was rough on some of those kids,
Oh
because
yeah.
this school was a safe haven for a lot of those
Yes.
kids. And you have to really feel for those kids. I mean, the kids in my neighborhoods, they were sitting at nice desks with nice laptops and nice computers and full on internet, and parents that were there. That wasn't the case around the country. There were a lot of
Yeah.
kids that really had to go into some pretty deplorable situations. And so you oftentimes, and you meaning the broader teacher base as a whole, may be the bright light in that child's day in, day out. They may look forward to coming into school to see you. And
Yeah.
then you're right. I can only imagine what it must feel like to have a child come back as a young adult and say,
Yeah.
because of you, I fill in
Yeah.
the blank, right? Because of you, I do this, or you were the best, or hey, I just wanted to come and say hi because you meant so much to me. There can be no other than your own child. I
Right.
think that might be the closest next best thing to that feeling, right? And I've
Yeah.
watched that light bulb, so I think that's huge. And yeah, let's I hate to say the perks, but there are those perks. I mean, there is some
Yeah.
of that flexibility in it. But I think the purpose driven behind it is impacting a student's life, like and
Yeah.
being the profession that creates all other professions is pretty
Yeah.
noble. It's a pretty
It
noble.
is.
It's very noble. And you can't put a price tag on it. I'd
No.
argue. I do argue that you could be paid more, but what is the price, right? Like I think that's an infinite sum, because
Yeah.
there just isn't a value you can place on that other than it's extremely valuable.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm looking at our time. I know you're in school, so I want to be
Yeah.
careful. You
No,
are in
you're
school.
okay.
It's in the morning. So what gets you excited? I mean, you're our tech, you're in the
Oh,
tech
man.
space, you're in STEM, you're in this.
Yeah.
I mean, we're dealing with, here we are. It's funny. As much as I can look outside and things don't look that much different than they did when I moved to, when I left high school,
Yeah.
the world is a dramatically different place. The technology that's around us is the things that were out of science fiction when I was growing up.
Right.
If I could go back in time and show, 19-year-old me this, they'd be like, well, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
But we've just come up with it, right? Like we've seen the evolution of it. So it doesn't strike
Right.
you as being this seismic thing, but
Yeah.
it's pretty wild. And we're entering into, I'd argue the next 10 years are going to be absolutely incredible. What, as a STEM teacher or just a teacher, what excites you? What are you really thrilled about?
Oh my
in your
gosh.
profession?
Let me tell you what excites me. So I'll
Yeah,
talk about
here
drones.
we go.
I'll talk about drones in a second. But
Here
we're
we
getting
go.
ready. We're getting ready to do our video game design showcase. So I do a showcase for every grade. Here's our prize table that is going to be happening. What
Nice.
they had to do is they had to make video games. But then what they did at home, and they all did it, all fourth grade, is they made video game consoles for them to fit in. So this library, this amazing space is going to turn into an arcade today, tomorrow, and Thursday. But look at some of these.
No, look
The
at this.
iPad is going to fit inside here,
In
and
there.
the game goes.
So they
with
made
the-
like old school consoles. Like
Yes.
it looks
Look
like an old school 80s like retro kind of
Yes.
console box, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
and the
Like look
whole
at that Star
entire-
Blast.
Yeah, look at these.
Look at
And-
this.
Look at them. They're just And today they're going to set up, and we have their
Oh,
families are coming in. We have classrooms coming in, then they're going to hand out tickets. And then the classes that do get the tickets, they'll come back tomorrow and they'll get to
and
shop
they'll
from
pick
the
up their
prize table.
prizes.
But this whole,
Unbelievable.
look at that.
Look at
Look
this
at all those
space.
boxes.
So this is incredible for those of you that are going to watch. I recommend now watching this on YouTube because we do both audio and video. And yeah, I've been in that room, right? I've been right there at those tables, and it's remarkable. You've got an amazing space,
Thank you.
and you do an incredible job. Those are so yeah, you're thrilled. You just got
I'm
me
excited.
pumped up. So they're doing video game programming, and then they're
Yeah,
going to put
so
their iPads inside those console boxes that they made.
So for the past month and a half, I've been teaching them coding. And what's great about it is Drone Legends. This is the fourth grade class. So they had Drone Legends. They had, 3 lessons leading up to Make Code Arcade, which is the video game design. So they
Hmm.
got their coding experience with Drone Legends. And now that they've
Ah,
had that, now I can tiptoe into another world and expose them to another way
nice.
to do it. Because my job, I like to think everything project that I do, I tie it to a career. So you could
Hmm.
do this as a career. So it's
Absolutely.
really nice.
What I think is cool about what you just did there is that you blended those consoles as like an art project.
Yeah, it
So
is.
you literally took the tech on one side, we're doing coding, but then you integrated kind of the creative arts with hand. I mean, that's glue and paper and
Yeah.
markers and paint and tape. And I mean, that's building a physical item, right? That's really
Yeah.
cool. So they're working on the iPad in this digital world, creating a game,
Yeah.
but then you've also got them building these like really cool, like console boxes that are little works of art in themselves.
It's cool. It's
Really
really
cool
neat.
project. And what grade
Thanks.
is that?
This is fourth grade. That will be their
Fourth
showcase.
grade.
And then the other grades have different showcases that they do, different projects.
Yeah. What are you doing for the littles? You have littles.
The first graders they learn about biomimicry and they learn how to use iMovie. Second
Yeah.
grade, they learn about different genres of text and then they take their favorite book and they turn it into a board game. Third grade, they will learn about how to make Google Slides. So the way to teach that application, they'll actually learn how to make escape rooms. So they will turn it into a slideshow, but then they'll actually make a physical experience, maybe like a game in front of them. Fourth
Wow.
grade is this, and then fifth grade is my favorite one. We do something called STEMpathy. And in a nutshell, it's we adopt so we have 4 fifth grade classrooms, and every classroom will adopt a student in our district, 3, 4, or 5 years old who has a physical disability.
Okay.
And they meet with the family. It's like a 3-month project. They first meet with the family, they meet the child, they interview and they will essentially then redesign a Power Wheels. And we're lucky enough to have the University of Delaware down the road. And in
Hmm.
that establishment, there's something called AMT, Assistive Medical Technology. It's a group of engineering kids that are juniors and seniors.
Huh.
Once the kids have reimagined the project and kind of made their prototypes, AMT kids will come in. They will, my kids are then the experts telling them what each kid needs. And then AMT during this time right now, they're actually building those actual Power Wheels. And then May 16th is the gifting ceremony. And
Huh.
it's really cool because then like all the fifth grade classes will prepare speeches. They have class speakers for each class. The mayor's coming, 6ABC is coming.
Wow.
It's a big
Yeah.
event.
Are they?
And we
Nice.
even got our high school digital arts kids that are going to make the slideshow. So like this is really a community effort that goes into it and
Wow.
really just helping where it's all about empathy and what you can do for somebody else. So what better way for me to leave the kids that will be leaving the school with teaching them about how to do something for somebody else.
It's amazing. That sounds incredible.
It's
So you have
wonderful.
the seniors come back and work with your fifth graders, and you
Yes.
pull this into the whole. Any ideas that ever get translated from the fifth grade into the final like real deal product? Like, have you ever had anything where it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm not saying this right, but like where like some of the ideas generated in that program end up in like being utilized far beyond your classroom, right?
Yeah, I mean these students that get the Power Wheels, they get to keep
Mm.
them. So they go home with them. We actually gifted my
And define what
nephew
is the power wheel for those
a
that don't
Power
know?
Wheel.
Yeah.
A Power Wheel is like a physical car that smaller kids, like 2, 3, 4, 5, can fit into, and they can drive it. Like it's like a car.
It's like a car.
But the problem or the challenge with a lot of kids that we service that have physical disabilities is maybe they have cerebral palsy. So they need what the kids need to figure out is they need to figure out a way to stabilize them and to hold them into the car. And you know how pedals are how we move? Well, sometimes they have to figure out, we have to rewire that mechanism to be a button up front so that that's how they make the car go when they're sitting in it.
Wow. Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You have quite a job.
I love it. It's
I
amazing.
know you do. This is why I wanted you on. This is
Aw.
incredible. And I didn't know about the Power Wheels thing. I got to check out some Power Wheels. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could, honestly, I could talk to you forever. I wanted to get you back into classes. But so final words for you, for people that are listening. You're huge inspiration. And again, just so many great things that you do. And I love your shirt, by the way. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's a really cool shirt. Tell us, send us out with some words of either encouragement, optimism for those, again, thinking about your audience here, teachers that maybe, maybe they're struggling. Maybe they don't. Listen, they learned from Kendra, and what can they take away today?
I'm going to reference Drone Legends because I have never seen such a well built program. And even curriculum, there are some great curriculums out there, but it's not, curriculums tend to be, I'm sorry, but a one size fits all. And I want to commend you and your team because I think Drone Legends, even though it comes in a package and it says what to do and what to say, it really is open to interpretation. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't use it the way verbatim that maybe you initially wrote it. But that's because I'm adapting for the kids. So I love it because it's like a whole package, right? We're trying to look at a whole child and what they need, but this is the whole package. And it's really, it's ahead of its game because you're getting ready to introduce kids to careers that maybe don't even exist yet, that drones are going to be a part of, that technology is going to be a part of, that we're going to be a part of. So I'm not going to lie. I will end with Drone Legends being, and Little Legends too, just being the best program I have ever seen come out for teachers. And I mean that I know that my job is easier to adopt that because I have the space for it, but it could live anywhere.
Incredible. Well, thank you. Wow.
You're welcome.
I'll take that compliment in a minute. Thank you so much. Coming from you, that means a lot.
You're
Listen, you and I, this is not the last time we will talk. We will gonna do more. We're going to co-present some more. We're going to, what are you doing at ISTE?
I'm not going to ISTE this year.
San Antonio, right?
I think so.
There's, what's in Philadelphia? I'm going. We're going. The American Library Association we're doing a 20-foot exhibit in Philly. You should come. You should come visit me. And we should do something. June, like ISTE times. That's why I'm not going to ISTE. Because we've got that Rise of the Legends book that we did. And we look at some of the libraries need STEM programming. And so we thought, it's in Philly. We're going to do a big 20-foot. We're going to build. So did you read Rise of the Legends?
Yes, I did.
You read the book, right?
Yes.
So remember the attic? Like we're going to try to recreate the attic as like one half of the exhibit. So you feel like you're in the attic. Where the kids have the crystal radio, and that's where that's where the Kendall and Michaela and all the kids spend their time up in that attic.
Yes.
So we're going to try to recreate the attic as part of the exhibit.
That's so. I need to come.
You have to come visit.
I have to come.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to end. That's an invite, by the way.
Okay. Got it.
All right. Well, look. This is a good one. I'm really glad we connected here. Thank you so much for coming on. You're the
welcome.
Best.
Thank you for having me.
You.
Bye, everyone. It was great seeing you.
That's great. All right, let me turn that thing off. Here we go. Thanks.